Scott Grayson has Grayson's grade. The report card is out. The Eagles lose 30-28 against the Baltimore Ravens. So last week, 34-29 last week? Or 38-29 last week against Pittsburgh. They hung in there against two teams that really have Super Bowl aspirations. I don't know, did they hang in there? Did they? Whatever you want to say. I think that there are some encouraging signs, and I know a lot of people are frustrated, but the offense has averaged 27.5 points with the injuries that this team has. Can the offense turn some things around and make this team, what's the right phrase, a tougher out maybe in the second half of the year? I mean, for them to be in games right now is somewhat admirable, I think you got to say, right? Wouldn't you? I mean, I don't know. Like, they're down 17-0 yesterday. I thought this is ugly. I want to go for a walk. I want to go to the boardwalk. A beautiful day. They actually fought in the second half, and I'm thinking to myself, I like Pittsburgh a lot. Pittsburgh bombed Cleveland yesterday, and I really like this Baltimore team. I think these are two Super Bowl contenders. The Eagles put some points on the board against, I don't know.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. You got to give them the respect of, look, they just will not go down, no matter what the score is. And that goes to Doug Peterson. But at the same token, you got to say, okay, well, stop. At some point, you can't just be happy with the fight back all the time. But then the injuries come in. There's just so many damn factors.
There is. Let's get the grades. The report card's out. Grayson's grades are up at 97.3 ESPN.com. Scott Grayson from Fox 29 and 97.3 ESPN.com. And let's see what grades he gives today. Scotty, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Mike, how are you doing?
Everything is good, and the report card is out. Let's start with Doug Peterson. He's an interesting one. You gave him a D. I mean, the offense scored 28 points against a good Ravens team. This is back-to-back weeks where they've put up almost 30 points. But what didn't you like? Because you gave him a D.
Well, I will say that all right, you asked the question, what didn't I like? I didn't like the way that he came out, he threw 3 passes to start the game. I mean, it was in no attempt or in any way, shape, or form. Linemen will tell you it's easier to run block than it is to pass block. You've got a piecemealed offensive line that, has guys coming out of literally the woodwork or the grocery aisles or whatever coming into play. And I just felt like you needed to try to do something on the ground before you started to try to let Wentz, do anything in the air. And, it got his quarterback killed. It got his quarterback into some negative yardage situations where he took sacks or was just sacked before he even had a chance to see what was coming. I just didn't understand the first half game plan. Now, that being said, yes, they did come back. I do like the way that, look, for whatever happens over the last few years, Doug Peterson has this ability to keep his teams from rolling over and just tapping out of any one of these games that we've seen where many times people think they don't have a chance. So my positives are the fact that I think, I like how he gets a group of no-names to come out and compete and almost come back and win a game like that. I had no problem with the decision to go for 2 early in the game. I prefer aggressive Doug versus conservative Doug. And so if I'm going to say that, I got to stick to it whenever he goes for 2. For the most part. I did not like the play call on the 2-point conversion they had to have. I mean, I'm sitting there before that play looking at a shot of him on TV thinking, you're looking at that card and you have on there a 2-point conversion play that every time you've repped it has worked in practice. I don't believe that's the one he called. And that being said, after the game, several times Doug and Carson and Jason Kelsey, I remember, were asked about whether they were rushed to run that play. They still had a timeout left. That's a 2-point conversion you have to have. And if at any point you feel like your offense isn't ready to run the play or they're hurrying to get it off, you got to call a timeout there, and you got to give yourselves a chance to reset and get the 2 points to tie the game. That was one area that I certainly had a problem with that Doug, could have potentially done a little better. All in all, though, he's got this team fighting. Given how bad the division is, they're still in the mix. And these next 3 games are really going to say a lot about what their chances are throughout the rest of the season.
All right. Also, you gave Jim Schwartz an F yesterday. They've yielded 30 or more points for the 3rd time in 6 games. They're giving up 29 points per game. Obviously, this defense, I don't know, like yesterday was tough, because Baltimore is one of those teams that are really tough to kind of prepare for. But why an F for Schwartz?
Well, you highlighted some of the big reasons. Look, you just cannot give up that many points and just expect to win games. And it's like, if it happens once here against a really good offense or once there, you can stop and say, okay, that was just a buzzsaw we ran into. One of the staples of Schwartz's defense in the past, in the years that they've won here, is, look, they've given up yardage, but in the end, they're not giving up the 6, from a touchdown. They're giving up 3 for a field goal. And had you done that just one time yesterday, as many points as you gave up, you would have won the game. And this defense just, for whatever reason, is not keeping teams out of the end zone. It's just failing to do that. Now, I did like what they did with the running game against everybody not named Lamar Jackson. But, overall, look, Lamar Jackson didn't have a great game yesterday. So you can't say that it was a bad defensive performance from that standpoint. But you still gave up 30 points. Yes, the offense gave them a short field once. And yes, early in the game, they were giving up short fields from the standpoint that the offense wasn't converting first downs. But that being said, you got to keep teams out of the end zone if you're going to win in this league. And they're just not doing that. And that's why they're giving up all these points. So if they can suddenly start bending but not breaking again, then perhaps, this defense has a chance. I think they've got good pieces. I think they've got some opportunities to make some plays, but they're not making turnovers either. And that's another thing. This team has won the turnover battle one time, and that was the game they won. So that says a lot about what they need to do from here on out.
You touched on the offensive line when talking about Doug's play calling. You gave them an F as an entire core. Brown was miserable. It's tough when you're on your third and fourth stringers, but talk about the offensive line play.
Yeah, it is tough. And you know what I feel really bad for is Jason Kelsey. He looks left, he looks right, and he's got to look for that, like, hi, my name is sticker somewhere on these guys. Look, yeah, the offensive line got an F, and that's not to question their effort. I know these guys are out there trying. But that being said, offensive lines, and you talk to any offensive lineman, they'll tell you, the success of a line is built over time. It's dictated by the chemistry they develop in knowing that when they see alignment across the line from the defense, that I know my guy next to me here is going to go take him. I know my responsibility now is to get that guy. And you've been through it enough and you've repped enough situations with those guys where you just know what the guy next to you is going to do. I think right now there's probably a certain extent of, I think he knows he's supposed to get that guy, but I'm not entirely sure. So therefore you're a little hesitant with that first step. Next thing you know, you're beaten and your quarterback's running for his life. So this is not to question the effort of the guys that are playing right now. It's mostly just to say it's bad. Your quarterback got hit 16 times. He's got sacked 6 times. He's the most sacked quarterback in the league right now. Some of it is his own fault. However, this offensive line is not helping. And they got to pray they get Lane Johnson back Thursday night. They've got to try to start getting some pieces in place that are going to be there, and then you can build some consistency with whoever is going to be on that line. That being said, though, too, I do believe Jordan Mailata is holding his own, and I like what I'm seeing from him overall, which is nice because they've invested in him and been waiting for that. So, interesting to watch as this develops, but this line, it needs to just get a little bit consistent and not suffer any more injuries, which happened to Jack Driscoll yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think I do not think Lane Johnson is going to play. I think Driscoll, reports are that he's out at least 2 weeks. It sounds to me that you're going to get Sue Opeta playing left guard, Herbig at right guard, and I think Pryor is probably going to have to play right tackle. That's the way it kind of looks like. If Lane and Driscoll can't play, I would imagine Pryor would be the next option to play right tackle. And then Opeta plays left guard because today Doug kind of insinuated, we have Herbig, he can move over there, and that would clear the way for Opeta to get it because I don't think you're going to see Jamon Brown back out there.
No, look, at some point you've got to look around the room and go, all right, which of you guys on defense played offensive line in high school? Do you know? And you go, hey, Brandon Graham, you seem to want to be out on the field a lot. You want to take some reps at right tackle?
Right.
What do they got to do something? This is just these next 3 games are so critical. And now I get not wanting to play guys on Thursday because you get that extra rest going into the Cowboys game, which of course is extremely huge. But you got Giants, Cowboys, bye, Giants.
Right, because at some point, Scott, you got to pick up a winnable game. Like you've already blown 2 winnable games with Washington and Cincinnati. Right. You can't let another one go. You got Giants on your schedule, and you have any ideas of trying to win this division. You have got to sweep the Giants, beat Dallas both times and pick up that Washington game. You cannot just be like, well, let's get healthy for Dallas now. Nah, because who knows if Dallas wins tonight, now you're 2 games behind them.
I completely agree with you. Anybody who is in the realm of 75% or higher in health needs to play Thursday night. You're at the point where it's all hands on deck, and this is a must-win game. I mean, it really is. You're right. They've had some gimmies that they've not been able to secure, and as a result, they're in the position they're in. I agree with you in the sense that I think, look, if you can win your last five NFC East games, that puts you at 6 wins, and you probably only need to win one other game somewhere else because you'll have the tiebreaker over the Cowboys, which is essentially another win. I think that does it. I think 7 wins gets you into the playoffs and wins the division, as crazy as that sounds. But you've got to win these next 3 games. All 3, to me, have to win. And you've got to get whoever's remotely healthy in there. I mean, how much longer are we going to go, well, we think Deshaun Jackson's going to play. Well, Alshon Jeffrey's practicing. Well, you know what? It's time to put up or shut up and get out there and try to play. Because there are guys out there who are trying to play and give everything they have, like a Fulgham, like even a Greg Ward. And look, John Hightower got to catch the ball. But he's getting open, and they've got to find ways to win these 3 games. And they need anybody who's able to play on the field.
By the way, Fulgham, you gave an A, and I think I agree that he's a guy that it looks like they found something with him. I'm interested to see what they do with him. There's reports that Deshaun Jackson will play on Thursday night. What does that mean for Fulgham? Like, the one question I have, Scott, and I don't even know if we'll ever see this, is what happens when this offense has a full deck of cards? Like, let's say around week 10, if you see Ertz, Goddard, Jackson, Jeffrey, Rieger, all back on the field, what does that mean for Fulgham?
Well, it's not too far-fetched to think that they could get there. I'm going to answer your question in a second, but if you get these wins in the next three games, and then you kind of find a way to win the 5 that you have left against the division and win the division, the biggest question is not what your record is going into the playoffs. It's, well, are you healthy again? And if you are, I think I agree with you. They've found something in Fulgham. He's a competitor. He's going to make plays, almost like Greg Ward did last year at the end of the season. But, yeah, what happens? I think you've made some of these guys tradable, and we know how he loves to make trades. I think you've made some of them expendable. Whether it's an Alshon Jeffrey, who you need to show is healthy a game or 2 before you trade him, or whether it's, one of the other receivers, perhaps, that you decide is expendable. Perhaps you decide you can get rid of a Zach Ertz, although now he's hurt and that doesn't help. But, you've got pieces you could potentially move to gain something in return that you desperately need. But I think Fulgham is definitely, and I know Doug's talking more and more about this, he has earned a spot when everybody's healthy out there for sure. Perhaps it's Hightower who gets bumped, because I'm excited to see Rager back at some point if he can get there, which he should in a few weeks. But it's a good problem. Like Doug had said, it's a good problem to have. But, you talk about a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I mean, a touchdown yesterday by diving on a loose ball in the end zone. I mean, when are you going to catch one? This is just a continued failure on Howie Roseman's part. All these draft picks that aren't performing the way that the guys that have been taken below them have. The biggest example, of course, that everybody talks about week in and week out, DK Metcalf, who's lighting it up in Seattle and was available when they took Arcega-Whiteside. So, at some point, these guys have to either show up or get out like Nelson Aguilar did.
He's Scott Grayson, and, of course, he does Grayson's Grades. The full brigade of the grades are up at 97.3ESPN.com, and, of course, you check him out here after every Eagles game. We'll talk to him Friday after the Eagles' Thursday night game against the G-Men, and he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Thanks, Scott.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Don't forget to check out Scott Grayson on Props and Locks on Fox 29, and saw him there last night on the Sunday newscast.